The tentative title for my thesis so far, as you can see, is The Men of the North, How the Union Constructed Masculinity During the Civil War. But a more appropriate word to use would probably be reconstructed. The North already had notions of masculinity before the Civil War occurred, but because it was such a destructive conflict, the most current research says about 750,000 people died during the Civil War. It brought a new reality for the people who faced it, and this was viewed differently depending on how close people were to the war. So the soldiers had a much different view early on than civilians did. Ideas about victory and loss factored into ideas about masculinity, because victory was very empowering for men, but loss was feminizing for them. But the ways that I'm going to look at masculinity and how it changed in my thesis include how the North used the South, such as in instances of Quantrill's raid on Lawrence in August of 1863 when guerrilla soldiers looted the town, how African American men were given the opportunity to construct their masculinity after dealing with slavery, and then how men as literary figures were used to construct ideas of masculinity, particularly in Walt Whitman's poetry. The South was important because guerrilla soldiers in particular were not viewed as honorable soldiers, and therefore they were not viewed as masculine. They were not honorable because they didn't enlist to fight, they didn't have a formal uniform, they had no training, they were viewed as cowards. They also used sneaky tactics when the guerrilla soldiers attacked, they gave their opponents absolutely no opportunity to defend themselves from the start, and that also factored into ideas about honor. Overall, it was unfair, and especially in Quantrill's raid, the citizens of Lawrence used words such as fiend and demon to describe the guerrilla soldiers. African Americans were given the opportunity to construct their masculinity after slavery metaphorically emasculated them, and instances like minstrel shows literally emasculated them by making them appear very feminine. Some former slaves, such as Frederick Douglass, thought that joining the Union Army would give African Americans a particularly good chance at claiming their masculinity, because enlisting could lead to citizenship, and citizenship was viewed as a basic requirement for manliness. And then they also faced fairly extreme risks in losing battles and things like that, because Confederate soldiers would often show them no mercy.
Time. Next one, Miranda.
In traditional lore, the Eastern dragon primarily represents good, while the Western dragon primarily represents an evil obstacle to be overcome by the hero as he makes his way through the adventure cycle described by Joseph Campbell in The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Both of these dragons have remained in their traditional roles pretty much since the beginning of stories, but this is changing a little bit now. With modern Western young adult literature, this Western dragon is being reinvented by combining his physical characteristics with the good character traits of the Eastern dragon. Then he's being put into the role of the hero instead of the evil obstacle to be overcome. This brings up some interesting questions for a young adult audience, namely, if the dragon is no longer the evil to be overcome, who or what takes its place? How is the view of humanity affected for the audience if the human is no longer the hero? And how does the question of the audience's identity get answered if the human again is no longer, or if the hero again is no longer human? My thesis seeks to answer these questions by examining two young adult novels that place the dragon in the role of hero as it moves through the adventure cycle. Cornelia Funke's Dragon Rider is about a young male dragon who goes on a traditional journey to find a place for his community to live, while Rachel Hartman's Serafina is about a 16-year-old half-human, half-dragon girl that is going through an inner journey of self-discovery while amidst a larger context of political turmoil. Oddly enough, both of these authors place humanity in this role that was once occupied by the dragon, and they become the evil. This allows the audience to take a step back and view this juxtaposition between the human and the non-human and examine humanity themselves in a more objective light. However, instead of distancing the audience from the non-human hero, they're still able to connect with it on a level that's deeper than skin or scale. This young adult human audience can recognize the same struggles in this dragon hero that they themselves face. Namely, that they have this power and capacity for both good or evil and must make a decision on those two. And they also have this struggle of trying to create and establish their own identity within their larger social context. Anybody who's ever gone to high school would understand this. These readers can walk with these dragons through their journey to understand that somebody else knows the same fear, pain, embarrassment, excitement that they do. And they can also understand that somebody else has the potential to go through their struggles and come out having changed for the better on the other side. This gives them hope that they can do the same thing. While it's unclear how this particular trend has come about, what is clear is that it provides a new opportunity for audiences like these young adult readers to seek to answer this question of identity for themselves.
Hi. Brianna? How did you? Yes.
For my thesis, I wrote a creative nonfiction memoir called Freshly 14. In it, I present and grapple with the sexual trauma I experienced over a 2-year span. For my thesis, I also analyzed the 3 memoirs of 3 women writers and used my determinations to write a critical foreword for my manuscript. This analysis allowed me to determine what mechanisms authors use to write memoir, trauma specifically. Some psychologists have labeled trauma as unspeakable. So what does an author need to speak the unspeakable? I found that operative metaphors help the author give control over their trauma. Each of the authors I analyzed chose a specific operative metaphor from which to view and write their text. The selection of an operative metaphor is important in 2 ways. First, it allows the author control over their trauma, which psychology agrees is necessary for recovery. Second, the operative metaphor provides a specific viewpoint from which to write the trauma. And this is important because it constricts the story. While constriction may seem counterintuitive in memoir writing, it actually helps give structure to the piece. Another way that these authors structured their memoirs was through pacing. Each of the memoirs used flashbacks in their pieces and revealed the trauma at the outset of the narrative. While pacing is not unique to memoirists, it does give more control over their trauma. My memoir also uses pacing to tell the story that I want to tell. The last major important factor that I determined in memoir writing was that of shared experience. Memoir writing can be a source of cathartic release. It can also provide hope to others who have been traumatized. The research I found in psychology tells us that traumatized women can benefit from reading trauma memoirs because they see that somebody else has gone through a similar struggle and has recovered. The creation of my thesis led me to 2 different fields of academic inquiry. The first was determining what allowed authors to write trauma. These mechanisms allowed me to better craft my own memoir, which I hope to one day publish. The second field of academic inquiry was that of memoir trauma. This is a field in need of further research. It is understudied, yet it can provide positive experiences for traumatized people because they can see that others have recovered through the shared experience that memoir allows. Thank you.
Thomas?
The title of my thesis is From the Highlands to the Plains, Discovering Scottish Heritage in the Midwestern United States. Now, the first question I asked myself going into this was, how can one gain historical knowledge from embracing their ethnic heritage? And more importantly, why? Well, an individual's inquiry of their heritage fosters a self-education of the associated history. It lies with the person themselves and the motivation they have to learn about their own ancestry. Now, this occurs through public history practice, such as involvement with cultural organizations, attending public events, and genealogical research. Heritage is a product of history, and individuals probe their ancestry, they begin learning all the various historical narratives. Now, heritage, therefore, provides a gateway into gaining historical knowledge. Now, in my oral history project, I revealed that Scottish Americans encounter different Scottish history narratives through these aforementioned practices. They also include supplemental research in Scottish history books, documentaries, and heritage tourism. Well, there's a vital tenet of cultural heritage that comes with comprehending associated history. As I previously mentioned, heritage is this product of history. Well, it prompts the significant importance of the latter. Now, what I call indirect historical learning, it occurs by educating oneself on narratives directly related to their ancestry. Now, for example, I, being of the clan MacLean, when I begin understanding my personal connection to that clan, my ancestry, I develop a broad generalization and understanding of the clan MacLean itself and its place in the broader context of Scottish history. Now, St. Andrews societies, Caledonian societies, Highland games like the one here in McPherson, Kansas, and Burn suppers, these provide public education opportunities focused on Scottish cultural practices, while simultaneously educating them on historical origins. Now, there is historical basis through this. The Scottish community is widely prevalent in the United States and throughout the world through the global migration known as the Scottish diaspora. Cultural influence in North America resulted from this hegemony that diaspora Scots sought to maintain their heritage. Now, these Scottish American communities develop and they maintain these links through their cultural educational programs and events highlighting Scottish history. So, embracing your heritage segues into historical learning. Genealogy, culture groups, public events, they all enhance the educational experiences with Scottish activities practiced by the Scottish American community, supporting this notion of learning history through heritage. Thank you.
Yay.
Nuclear industry provides 20% of the electricity in the United States, and the ratio is still increasing. Everybody believes that the nuclear industry provides clean energy in the world, but there is still a problem, which is the waste, because the waste still have the radioactive. So the storage of the radioactive waste become a big issue. The resolution for this problem is storing the nuclear waste in very deep geological material, so that the geological material can bond the nuclear waste and hold the nuclear waste in very deep material, so that the material won't go into the underground water or come onto the surface of the earth to injure our life. So that the waste really can release the radio energy in the very deep material. So that in my experiment, I just want to measure what's the temperature influence on the absorption of the nuclear of the geological material to the nuclear waste, and the chemistry form of the nuclear waste is always ion, just like uranium and selenium ions. So I just use the hemtate to simulate the geological material because the hematite is the normal material on the surface of the geological material. So I just put the ion into my hematite and ran for 24 hours for different temperature. Then I test how much the ion in the solution. There are 2 steps in my material in my experiment, and first one is to measure the surface charge on the geological material. I just use the put the material in my solution and like this. The red because the hematite is can show red color, and then I just centrifuge it. Then the hematite will go. No.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. I'm Guan Yigao from Dr. Yang's lab, and today I'm going to talk about the effect of antioxidant on melanoma treatment. Melanoma, can I start again? Melanoma is one of the most dangerous type of skin cancer. It is dangerous because it can originate from any part of the body that contains melanocyte, and it is really hard to be detected in the early stages. If a patient is in the late stage of melanoma, the survival rate is only 7%, so it is really dangerous for the human beings. Patients take PLX 032 to treat with melanoma. PLX is a kind of anti-cancer drug. It is approved by the FDA. Although it works well, it has side effects. For example, it can break the cell wall and cause damage to the human beings. So patients are suggested to take antioxidant to treat with those side effects. Antioxidants include beta-carotene, coenzyme Q10, and vitamin E are usually found in the supplement of daily. Also, they can be found in a variety of fruit and vegetables. They can reduce the free radicals in the cells and to make the cell live better. So there is also a chance that those antioxidants can make cancer cells live better. For the purpose of my research, I want to detect whether those antioxidants good or bad for the cancer patient. I did several experiments and I found that after those melanoma cells treated with PLX, which is the anti-cancer drug, the antioxidants such as coenzyme Q10 and beta-carotene can decrease the cell viability. Also, they can induce the apoptosis, which is commit the cell to suicide. Also, it can decrease the migration of melanoma cells. So my conclusion is antioxidants are friends to the cancer patient. Thank you.
Young man, Ma.
Okay, so today my topic is soil bacteria gold mining for antibiotics. The resistance of pathogenic microbes to an increasing number of antimicrobial agents has posed a serious threat on human health. Superbacteria is a name referred to the bacteria which are resistant to most antibiotics we know. However, patients do not take antibiotics usually for more than 10 days. In other words, the more drugs you use, they become less effective. Thus, we are now in a race between time against to discover new antibiotics. However, large pharmaceutical companies do not pour in more fundings in this area because of the long term of high investment but with low returns. Instead, our university, like academic institutions, can be responsible for continuing this study. In this project, our eyes fell upon soil bacteria as a source of new antibiotics production. Due to the large population and great diversity of soil bacteria, they have become good candidates to screen for new antimicrobial agents production. In this project, we collected soil samples from Rocky Mountains Park, and we isolated a bacteria which named as ZYD4. It can consistently produce antimicrobial agents which can kill E. coli and S. aureus, and moreover, these agents can kill melanoma cells and the other cancer cells. And after identifying the DNA sequence of this bacteria, we know the specific species of this bacteria, which is Borrelia bacillus. And by using the techniques of biochemistry, some chemical and physical properties of these microbial agents are characterized. Till now, we have found that these agents are heat level and acidic and alkaline stable. And after that, we use ethanol to precipitate the agent from the bacterial supernatant. And next step, we plan to use high-performance liquid chromatography to separate and quantify different components from the previous extract. And after that, we will inject these agents into a mass spectrum, which is an equipment to analyze the structure and the molecular weight of these microbial agents. So at last, hopefully we can find some new antibiotics which can help us fighting the war between the infectious bacteria and human beings, and to protect ourselves. Thank you.
My thesis project is to study the effect of vitamin C on human melanoma and to study the effect of vitamin C on therapeutic effect of anti-melanoma drug. Melanoma is a major and deadly form of skin cancer. As one of the most common cancer in the United States, melanoma is the only cancer which incidence has been keeping increasing. Melanoma cells have many different mutations. One of the most commonly mutated genes in melanoma is BRAF, and more than 90% of BRAF mutations involve a single base substitute with kinase domain, leading to V600E amino acid change and constitutively active kinase. And BRAF can induce cell proliferation and survival. TLX4032 is a BRAF selective kinase inhibitor. It can specifically inhibit BRAF V600E mutation, but it also has some side effects, such as produce some ROS. Vitamin C is a classical antioxidant. The effect of vitamin C on cancer cells can be controversial. On one side, as an antioxidant, vitamin C may promote cancer cell growth because antioxidant can remove free radical such as RS from cell, and more free radical can kill cell. On the other side, previous studies show that vitamin C can kill some types of cancer cell by increasing the level of RS as a potent oxidant. However, the study concerning the effect of vitamin C on melanoma has not been concluded. So I examined the effect of vitamin C on the growth and invasiveness of melanoma and the effect of vitamin C on therapeutic effect of TLX4032. And my results show that vitamin C can decrease the cell viability of melanoma cell and can help TLX4032 to inhibit cell migration and cell invasiveness. Vitamin C also can help TLX4032 to induce cell cycle arrest G1 phase and commit suicide of melanoma cell. Okay, thank you.
Last 3-minute thesis is.
All right, welcome everybody. Invasive plants can cost the United States over $34 million annually. One such invasive species is Thesis lespedeza, and it's pictured here in the middle. This plant not only threatens the integrity of tall grass prairies, but it also costs individual land managers tens of thousands of dollars to not only treat, but also in crop loss every year. The control methods, current control methods, include burning, grazing, mowing, and herbicide application, but not a single one of these actually controls Thesis lespedeza. So the goal of my research is to find out if a combination of these treatments with varying burn season will significantly decrease Theresia abundance. So my treatments involve a plot that is a fall burn only, and then a spring burn only, and a no burn for my control. Then within each of these plots, they're further divided into herbicide application, mowing, and fuel addition. And with the fuel addition plots, what we did, we spread out that round hay bale, and we were trying to encourage a hotter fire temperature. Before I did any of these applications though, in the fall, I collected stem densities of Theresia, as well as the biomass productivity. And I'm gonna compare those before treatments to the after samplings that I'm gonna do this coming fall after all the treatments have been applied. And we're gonna see from last fall to this fall, was there a significant decrease in Thesis lespedeza? So was there a good combination of treatments that decreased it? I'm hypothesizing that the treatments that were burnt in the fall and had the fuel addition, so that hotter fire temperature, will significantly decrease Theresia, mostly due because we're gonna catch the seeds while they're still on the plant. And then that will also, so the fire temperature will be increased and actually kill the seeds before they get incorporated into the soil. But I'm not done yet, because it's not fall, so you're gonna have to come to my thesis defense to actually find out if Theresia is controlled.